My observation over 42 years of being a trader for my own account in the commodity and futures market is that there's really been very little emphasis and discussion placed on the human element of trading, the human aspects of trading. I think this is sad because the human aspects of trading play such a big role in market speculation. There's an old adage that if you really want to get to know yourself as a person, become a trader. Because you will get to know yourself. You'll get to know the good, the bad, and the ugly. They all come together. And so that's what I'd like to talk about today is all of those aspects of the human being, of we as part of humanity, our character traits, our emotions that come to bear during the process of being a market speculator. It has been my observation since I first started in the commodity business in the mid-1970s that very little attention by authors and experts on TV and in books pay attention to the role that our human emotions play in the trading equation. And I know for me it's been an enormous one, and one of the biggest challenges I have as a trader is just dealing with who I am as a person. And applying that to the whole business of market speculation. There's an old adage that I learned early on in the trading business, and that is, if you really want to know yourself, all the good, the bad, the ugly, the warts and all, just become a trader and you'll quickly learn who you are as a person, and there's so much truth to that. Human character traits and emotions have such an enormous impact on the outcome of our trading activities. Just something that very little attention is paid to, and so that's really the subject of this video. Many novice and aspiring traders are of the belief that the key to trading success can be found in something that I call trade identification or trade signaling, and I covered that subject in episode 3 and under the idea of chart analysis and technical analysis. I would think, and it's been my observation, that aspiring traders, those people who are seeking out to try to figure out how they're going to trade the markets, spend 80% of their time, 80% of their attention, 80% of their money buying books, going to webinars, signing up for services, focused on trade identification, which is basically just the idea of what market do I trade and when, and do I trade it now? I know that for me, I was there. I can relate to that. I think early in my trading career, within the first 4 or 5 years, one of the hard lessons I had to learn was that trade identification is not the key to trading. And as a matter of fact, trade identification is really one of the least important components of the trading equation. You have all probably heard of the word edge or trading edge, or been asked, what is your trading edge? All successful traders I have ever known as a trader, and I've known many, have a unique edge, unique to themselves. What is an edge? An edge is usually a very small, sometimes seemingly insignificant advantage that a trader can exploit over and over and over again to gain a thin margin of advantage over the marketplace. If I need to better define an edge than that, then the chances are that you don't have an edge and it's something you need to do research on. But all successful traders have an edge. I know my edge. When I reflect back on my career as a trader, what I recognized is that early in my trading career, I thought trader identification was where the edge is, that charting would provide me with the edge. And as I can reflect back on a very long period of time, over 40 years of market speculation now, I realize that trade identification, again, is one of the least important contributors to edge. My trading edge, as shown by the pie chart that's on the screen right now, it really consists of 4 areas. One area is risk management. I as I view it, risk management is the biggest contributor that I have to my trading edge. Managing emotions is a close second to be the most important contributor to my overall edge. The process by which I use to trade is third, and finally followed up by trade identification or trade signaling as really the least important. So this gives you kind of a pictorial view of how I view my own edge in trading. So managing emotions, I really identify as the second biggest contributor to my edge as a trader, which means that it's a real task for me, as I believe it is for most discretionary traders, to know themselves. The reality is that as discretionary traders, I'm my own worst enemy toward my own success. That it's my emotions and character faults that attempt to rob me of the effectiveness that I can be as a trader. You know, we've all heard that emotions of fear or greed are the worst enemies of a trader, and I wish that was the end of it. Fear and greed are just the start of the emotions that can undercut a trader in their attempt to be successful. I think the bottom line of trading is that overcoming self is the key to success. And as a trader, I realize that my daily challenge, my challenge each and every day is just to recognize ways that my emotions, my sense of anxiety and fear and greed and all of those other things attempt to sabotage what I'm going to be doing. Let me try to identify some of the battles that I feel that I have faced. Some I've had very significant victory over. Some it's still a challenge to me, even to this day. But I think of terms as either character faults or pure emotions. It's sometimes hard to divide where one line starts and the other. But let me go through some character traits that I have some role in affecting negatively my trading performance. One is compulsiveness. Another one would be being a worrier. People who are worriers, that's not a good trait for being a trader. You're always worried about what your trade's going to do. I know I tend to be a perfectionist, and you know there's the old saying that sometimes perfection is the enemy of good, and I can see that in my own trading. Is you tend to always want to have things be perfect, and when you're a trader, things can't always be perfect. Stubbornness, people who are stubborn, that's a very dangerous trait to have in the business of trading, because that is a trait that can lead a trader into hanging on losses for way longer than they should be hung on to. I think another trait which can tend to work against a trader is being overconfident. I've met traders who absolutely are overconfident in the trades that they have on, and it's to their own doom. I think there's a flip side to that, and that's being underconfident. I mean, as traders, we need to have some level of confidence that what we're going to do is going to work. We can't be completely timid, but there's a balance between being overconfident and underconfident that a trader needs to try to achieve. I think another trait that can affect trading is the degree to which a person is too overly aggressive. I've seen traders that are like bulldogs and never know when to leave the ring, and they can become completely aggressive, and that aggressive nature of theirs can be reflected then in the trading that they do. Another trait that I've seen in traders is they're overly possessive. Everything is there. Every idea is theirs. They're not willing to give credit for good ideas, perhaps, to some of the traders that are on their staff. I've seen that with people who have run proprietary trading firms. Another character trait which works against trading success is being unfocused. People who are just kind of scatterbrained. It's their very nature that they just don't stay on task on things. It's not a good trait for a trader to have. I think yet another trait which tends to work against a trader is when they're closed-minded. They are not open to new thinking about a problem. They have a fixed idea in their mind as to how to resolve an issue, and they're not really willing to think about things outside of that. I think one of the big ones is greed, as we've all met people who are greedy. They just want every last penny on the table. And as a trader, you have to give up some of that greed, I think, to achieve success. So when we think about character traits that work against us, the list goes on, add your own. But we also have to recognize that there are some really good character traits that we have to be successful as traders. And part of all of this, both on the negative and positive side, is knowing who we are as people, being honest with ourselves as people. Some of the character traits that I think contribute to success, I've seen it in so many traders over the years. One of them is patience. They have the ability to wait things out. They have ability to wait for their pitch, so to speak. They don't feel the urge to always be trading. They can sit back and wait for a particular setup to take place without feeling the urge to be involved. I've seen people who are diligent. They are extremely on task. They are diligent to a fault. They have great attention to detail, and they pay attention to the little things. And sometimes it's the small things that really have the big payout. They're industrious. Good traders I've met are extremely industrious. They know to work hard. They know what it's like to put in the extra hours. They know what it's like to really attack a task and to not quit until they've achieved what they're trying to do. Of course, a trait that comes to mind among most traders I've met who are accomplished is they're very analytical. They think through problems. They don't come up with the first thing that comes into their mind. They're deep thinkers. They go deeper into a problem of trying to figure out things. One thing that you might not think about is creativity. Somebody who can look at a market and come up with an idea in the market where you say, that's just absolutely crazy. But they've thought through creatively. They've creatively come up with what outcomes might be that you would not normally have expected for a particular marketplace. They think outside the box, so to speak. And another trait I've seen in good traders is they're curious. They want to know how something works. They want to know how the market works. They want to know how technical analysis works. They want to know what central banks do. They're very curious, and they want to learn what takes place. And these are just, I think, some of the things that contribute to success of traders. And so it's just not all good bad character traits, but it's good character traits as well that a trader needs to manage their bad character traits. They need to learn how to accentuate their good character traits to accomplish the trading outcomes they want. I want to talk just for a minute about how I overcome some of these things, because I'm subject to some of these emotional urges. I know that I am compulsive to a fault. If I let myself sit and stare at a computer screen all day long, I could talk myself out of a good trade and into a bad trade many times a day. And so I recognize that about myself. And what I have to do as a trader then is manage that. And I think the challenge of a trader is to find out ways that they can deal with some of these things. For me, this really means two things. And the first is I avoid daily contact with the computer screen. I make it a habit to get my orders in at the beginning of the day and get away from the market. To avoid the daily price changes and watching markets tick up and down and watching intraday charts and all of those things, because that's not where my strength is. My strength is in looking at charts from a bigger picture. And if I bog myself down into the markets intraday, eventually my emotions are going to get the best of me and I'm going to make a bad decision. And part of that is I limit the hours of the day that I allow myself to enter orders. This is called discipline. It's called a discipline to do the things that I need to do to be as successful as I can be as a trader. For me, that's entering orders between 4 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. Mountain standard time. That is my hours for entering an order. I also do some entering of orders between about 5 and 6 o'clock a.m. in the morning, but those are times in which the markets aren't sitting and changing and prices aren't going up and down. Those are lull periods or times the markets are closed. And so I attempt to enter all my orders when market hours are not taking place to avoid the emotional pull of reacting to split-second things that I see in the computer screen. I also have the fear of missing trades. I hate missing trades. I hate seeing and thinking, well, this market is going to do such and such, and it does, and I look at it and say I wasn't aboard. That drives me crazy. But I found some things to help deal with that. For one thing, I'm great at beating myself up, and it's important for me to look back and to remind myself and go through a checklist. I have a good checklist that I say, okay, these are the things that I need to do to catch a trade. Part of that is being disciplined enough to put in the orders. Part of that is an order entry thing. Also, in terms of missing trades, I recognize I have a rule that if I try a trade twice and I'm wrong, I go shopping somewhere else. That means that I will miss a trade. But a lot of this deals with, your mental makeup and how you approach the game and the frame of reference that you have. And so even though I have a fear of missing trades, I've come to the point in my trading career where I accept that I will have it. There will be situations where I'm going to miss a trade. I'm going to need to learn to live with it. And in terms of beating myself up, it's easy to beat yourself up over a missed trade, but sometimes it's easier to beat yourself up than it should be. And you have to remind yourself, what are the reasons I did trade? And if they were right reasons for trading or right reasons for missing a trade, well, then so be it. Another thing that I recognize about myself is that I'm very risk adverse. I'm probably much more risk adverse than I should be. I don't like sometimes taking risk, and so I have to force myself sometimes to take more risk on than I really should. I know that being risk adverse, I run the risk of being gun shy. That if I'm wrong on 2-3 trades in a row, I can become gun shy, and so I have to force myself to enter trades at the size level I do. And to do that, I use a grid. There's a grid that I have, and it starts out at a certain bet level, and then I can adjust it. So I try to use systematic reasoning and logical thinking as a means for me to kind of overcome my emotional tendency to avoid risk and to do so, to go about very systematically determining the size that I'll put on in a trade. It's my daily challenge to recognize the ways in which my emotions and character faults tend to sabotage everything I'm doing. And that requires me to be absolutely self-honest and transparent, which is, quite frankly, not an easy thing to do. It's not easy to recognize and fully admit to our own character faults and ways that we tend to negatively impact our trading. But it's an important thing to do. And I know that I need to recognize those areas that tend to throw me off my game. And in many ways, we find out who our own worst enemy is. And I know that I have certainly met mine. Let me end by just summarizing two things I've already probably rehashed a number of times here. And the first is that, we manage our emotions, we manage our character traits. We don't overcome emotions. To this point in my career, I've traded more than 40 years. I still can be fearful. I still can be greedy. I can still have self-doubt. These are things that I'm still subject to. The question is, am I going to let them rule my life? Am I going to let them dictate my trading? And so we never really overcome some of these things. We need to manage these things. That's the name of the game. And I think the second thing is that it's a never-ending battle, dealing with who we are as people, dealing with the fact that as individuals, we have things about ourselves that work against our success. is not something that we're gonna have that battle today and not have it the rest of our lives. It's a never-ending battle. It's something that discretionary traders need to deal with every day. So, just a word of encouragement on that. Just keep plugging along. So, anyway, that's what I have to say about the whole business of human emotions and as applies to trading. And thanks for watching. Charting is an interesting thing. If you get in a room, 10 different chartists and show them a chart, you're going to get about 15 different opinions. And charting is a craft. I'm a craftsman as a chartist. Trading is a business, and it is a dead serious business.